Welcome to GCSE Maths videos and IGCSE Maths videos. Today we're going to be talking about functions, which is a topic they're going to examine you on when you do your GCSE Maths or IGCSE Maths. So what we're going to do today is the basic introduction of what functions are. We're also going to be talking about some keywords like what input is. We're going to be talking about what output means, and of course also what the word function stands for. So it's just going to be a basic introduction today with a few calculations here and there. So the first thing we need to know is basically what function refers to. Now a function is a rule that turns one number, which is called the input, into another number, which is called the output. So if you have a number you're starting with, and then you have then a different number that you're finishing up with. For example, let's think about, let me call the input x, which are the numbers I'm going to start with. So let's go the input x. These are the numbers I'm going to start with. And then let me call the numbers I'm going to end up with, the output, let me call them y. And I'm going to be thinking about starting with any number, say for example 3, and just doubling it to get 6. Start with any number, for example 5, and just doubling it to give me a 10. Start with any number, say for example -3, doubling it to give you -6. Start with any number, say for example 1/3. If I double 1/3, I'm going to get 2/3. So what you can see is that starting with x, to find what y is, all you need to do is to be doubling the x. So I can now say that to find y, all I need to do is to double what x is. Now this y here, you can replace it with something called f of x. So f of x is a function here. F of x basically stands for what y is. It stands for basically what the output will be. So I'm going to say that f of x is going to be equal to 2x. Okay, so this will now be my function. It's a function that doubles what x is to find what y is. Okay. Another function could be different. It could be a function that, say for example, just adds a number to the input. And here the input is basically what x is, and the output is what y is. So if I have, again, x, and then I got y there, then I can say that if I start with, say, for example, 3, and I'm adding 2 to it, I'm going to end up with 5. So I'm just adding 2 here. If I start with 6, I'm adding 2, I will get 8. If I start with -2, if I add 2, I'm going to get 0. If I start with a half, if I add 2 to that, I'm going to end up with 2.5. So in this function, we can see that x is being, we're adding 2 to x to find what y is. So we now say that to find y, all you need to do is to add 2 to what the x is. Now this y, we can now replace it with f of x equals to x add 2. So our function here is f of x equals to x add 2. Okay. So a function is any rule that turns one number called the input into another number that is called the output. Okay. So that's a basic definition of what a function is. You could also have functions that will square the input, so then giving square numbers. Or you could also have functions that will cube the input for you, giving you cube numbers. Okay. Right, so that's just a basic introduction. I've got here f of x equals to x add 3. If you look at it, the function f of x equals to x add 3 is a rule that just adds 3 to the input value of x. Now, what I should also pinpoint is that f of x can be written like that, or can be written in this format here. So f with those 2 dots there, and x. It means the same thing. So if you find in exam, they've written for you f with those two dots on x, that basically means the same thing as f of x. Okay, and in this case, we do not use equal sign. If you use these two signs, don't use equal sign, use the arrow. So f of x is x add 3. Okay, it's the same thing as, it's just the same thing as that. So be prepared for your exam. Whichever notation they give to you is the same thing, same approach. Okay. Right, so I would like us to look at some kind of questions that they're going to give in exam that you should be able they should be able to do. Example 1 says, for the function f of x equals to 30, take away 2x squared. Find f of 4 and find f of -2. Now, when you find when you see numbers written in bracket like this after the f, that basically means that this number is the input, or it is the x value in this case. In this one here, it means that the input is -2, or simply x is -2. So in your working out, if you're going to do this one, you're going to say, first of all, f of x is equals to 30 minus 2x squared, and that's a general function. Then you're going to replace where x is, you're going to put 4. You sub in 4. And you're going to do that one to the other side as well. So you're going to have 30, take away 2. I normally put bracket here, and then I just put 4, and then I close bracket, then I square it. Okay, so that means 2 times x squared. So it's 2 times 4 squared there. And remember, bid mass, you have to do your indices first. So this one I need to sort out first. So I've got 30, and I've got -2, and I need to sort out the powers first. And that's going to be 16. You can still have the bracket on, because 4 squared is 16. You can still have the bracket on. Now the next thing I need to do is to sort out the bracket. And we know that 2 bracket 16 means 2 times 16. So it's 2 times 16. And you can underline that. And then if you carry down, you got 30 there minus 32. So your answer is going to be -2. Okay? So we say that f of 4 is going to be -2. In other words, when x equals to -2, f of x, or y rather, is going to be equals to, if x equals to -4, sorry about that. If x equals to 4, sorry. So if x equals to 4, because that's what it is, we're ending up with f of x equals to -2, or simply y equals to -2 there. That's what it means. Now, what I want you to do, I would like you to pause the video, and then I would like you to have a go at f of -2. So pause the video here, and then have a go at f of -2, using the very same function. Okay, hope you've tried that. So let's go through it again. Now, so again, you come back to the same function, which is 30, take away 2x squared. And all you need to do now, where x is, you sub in -2. So I've got f of -2 equals to 30 minus 2 bracket. We have -2 here, and you're squaring it. And again, the next thing you need to do, again, is the powers, the indices. So I'm going to have -2 there, and then bracket. Now, -2 squared is -2 times -2, which is going to be +4. You times a negative by itself, you get a positive. Okay, so that's going to be 30. We are taking away, if you want, 2 times 4 is going to be 8. So the answer here is going to be 22. So again, when x is -2, f of x becomes 22. Now this f of x, you can look at it as the y value or as the output. Okay. Right, so what I want you to do now, I've got a couple of questions here that I would like you to pause the video. Some of them you might need your calculator, so I'll put the picture of the calculator there for you that you need to use. This is a calculator I really recommend for GCSE or IGCSE maths. So what I want you to do, I would like you to pause the video, and I would like you to try question 1 all the way to question F, or if you want to choose a couple of questions you want to do, I will let you do that. You will need to, for each function, like for example, f of x equals to x equals 5, you will need to work out for each number. For example, this one, x is 11, here x is 36, and here x is 4. So try them as you choose. So I will post the videos if I were you and have a go at some. Okay, well done. So hope you've tried a couple. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pick the last question, because obviously the last question should generally be the harder one. So I'm going to do f of x, right? So f of x equals to 11 minus 2x. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pick the last value. So this one here, supposing that should be the hardest one. So the first thing you need to do now is to say that f of x equals to 11 minus 2x. Now it will be good to use the first notation, which is say use the bracket notation, f of x equals to 11 minus 2x. Now that means that if x equals to negative 5, that's negative 5 there, we now say that f bracket negative 5. And wherever x is, all we need to do is to sub it down. So 11 take away 2 times negative 5. Because 2x means 2 times negative 5. And you can underline that and do it fast. Okay, so I've got 11 minus 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. So this is what I'm ending up with if I were to bracket them. Now, if we have 11 minus negative 10, we know that when you have negative signs attached to each other like that, they normally become a plus. So your answer becomes 21. Okay. Right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to show you the answers to the rest of the questions, and you might just want to mark them using the answer at the bottom. So the answers for question 1 to F, if you want to really quickly pause the videos and just mark your work. Okay. Right, so I hope you marked them. So now let's proceed on to more harder questions that you could come across in exam. And what I want you to do is to just basically have a go at them. Choose the ones you want to do, and I will particularly ask you to do the bottom 3, the last 3, C, D, and E. They are the most difficult. I would like you to stretch yourself to them as well. And you might need your calculator. So pause the video and have a go at them. Well done. Thank you so much. Right, so I'm going to choose to do question D and question E, hoping that these are the most difficult. I didn't mention at the beginning that you don't just use f when it comes to function. You don't just use f of x. Say for example, f of x is x squared. If I'm thinking about a different function, say for example, x at 3, then in this context I can decide to use a different letter. For example, I can say g of x. Now g of x here is just trying to tell us that it is a different function from f of x. That's all it is. And I could have a different function, say for example, h of t, being say something like t minus 7. Okay. Now here I'm just replacing x with t, and I'm replacing f with h here. So this is h of t, same thing. Just means that these are different functions altogether, and I don't have to be talking about x all the time. I can replace them with other letters. Okay? So when you see these notations, the same thing, just do the same thing, and you shouldn't be confused. Okay, so I want to do D, and then I'm going to do E for you. So it says h of x, so h of x equals to 2x squared minus x plus 4. Moving on from that, remember you have to do the powers first when you're subbing in. I'm going to do h to negative 2. Let's do that Roman number 2. So I'm going to have h negative 2 in bracket equals to 2 times by negative 2 squared minus bracket. I just like to put bracket when I have minus. So x is minus 2, and then I've got 4 there. You can put this in your calculator exactly like I've typed it in here. So when you do your calculator, type it exactly like I've done there. So there I've got 2. Now negative 2 squared is obviously 4, so we are basically times in there, because if you have a number in front of bracket means you times it. Then I've got minus 2, which becomes plus 2, and then I've got add 4 there. Then simplifying, you go to do times first, multiplication comes before add, so you're going to have 8 plus 6. So 8 plus 6 becomes 14. That's your answer. Okay. So for h of x equals 2x squared minus x plus 4, when x is negative 2, h of x becomes 14. Okay. I'm now going to do e f of t, and I'm going to use the decimal number here. So I'm going to say that f of t equals to 4t minus 3 all squared. And all I now need to do is to sub in what t is. T is negative 0, t is 0.75, not negative. And then I'm going to have 4 times by 0.75. Yeah, so 4 times by 0.75. And then I take away 3, and then I'm going to square my answer after. Okay, so moving on from that. Now, if you use your calculator, and you're doing 4 times 0.75, you're going to end up with 3, because 0.75, if you double that, is 1.5. And if you double it again for 4, you get 3. So I'm going to have 3, take away 3. And then all you need to do is to square that. So then I'm squaring 0. If you're squaring 0, you end up with 0. Okay, so that's that. Right, so I'm going to ask you to pause the video again once I've shown you the answers. And then you can really quickly mark your work, the ones that you've done. And then we go to the last bit before we stop the video. Okay, before we stop the video. Right, so have a go at marking your work. Okay, so hope we finished. So we're going to do the last bit, which is a bit more tricky. So again, I want you to pause your video and then have a go at these ones. These ones you are allowed to use your calculator if you need to, and some of them you can still do without your calculator. So pause the video and have a go at this. Okay, well done. So what I'm going to do now is to just quickly show you the answers, and then you can just basically mark your work. So the answer at the bottom there. Pause the video, mark your work. Okay, well done. We're now going to move to the last bit now of this introduction, and we're going to be looking at more challenging questions. So I've got question F, G, and H, which I want you to pause the video again, and then I want you to have a go at them. Once you're done, then I'm going to go through question G and H for you. Okay, well done. I hope that you've just done them. So let's have a go at question G. Question G says f of x equals to 8 to the power of x minus 1. Now we want to know what f of x is if, say for example, x is negative 2 thirds. All we need to do is to sub that in. So I'm going to say f of negative 2 thirds equals to 8 to the power of negative 2 thirds minus 1. Okay. Now you should have done your indices to know how to do this. So these are questions that can potentially come in a non-calculator paper for GCSE. So you should be able to do this one. So I want to do it without using a calculator for you. So I'm just going to fold it back, pull it aside. So I've got 8 power of negative 3. And what this means that you, first of all, ignore the negative, and then you just handle the powers first. I'm going to have 8 to the power of 2 thirds. Now the bottom number means you're getting the root of this number here. So I will need to be getting the cube root of 8, and that's how I write it. Now the cube root of 8 means a number times by itself. twice to get the 8. And that's going to be 2. So if you do 2 times 2 times 2, you get 8. That's going to be basically 2. Now, once you get this number, then you're going to apply that number at the top. This means now you're just powering it. So you're just basically going to square your number. Okay. So once I've done that, then I'm going to square the 2, which is going to be what? 4. So 8 to the power of 2/3 is basically 4 if you type in your calculator. But when the power is negative, you need to get the reciprocal of this. And the reciprocal of this is basically going to be 1/4. So the whole of this part here, if you use your calculator, you're going to see that it's going to be 1/4. And all you need to do is to minus 1. And again, doing this without your calculator, you can turn this one into quarters, because you got quarters here. You can just turn one whole into quarters, which is 4 quarters. And then you just take away as normal. So 1 take away 4 is going to be -3. And then the bottom number just stays because it's fraction. Okay. So that's how to do this. Right, so I'm going to do the last one, question H, for you very quickly before we stop. The last one says f of t equals to t to the power of minus t plus ft. And I'm going to use the negative. I'm going to use t being -3 there. That's the one I'm going to use now. So t being -3. I'm going to sub it in there, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so let's start. So I've got f of t equals to 2 minus t plus 5t equals to 2. Now, negative t, our t is -3. So you're going to say negative t, put in bracket. It's not 3, but it's -3. Okay, so they're saying you put negative t. T is -3. So t is -3 itself. That minus they have to stay. And then I've got plus 5. And t again is -3. So you can times that by -3. You can close that in bracket. Okay, moving on. Now, when you have a negative in front of a bracket like that, it means you just basically timesing out. You can look at this as -1. So if you do -1 times by -3, becomes positive. If you just say minus minus becomes positive. So I've got 2 to the power of +3. And then here I've got 5 times by -3, which becomes -15. So plus -15 is just -15. Okay. Now 2 cubed is 8, not 6. Minus 15 becomes -7. Okay. So when f of t, when t is -3, then f of t, the whole thing, comes down to -7. Okay. So I'm just going to show you the answers very quickly. So then you can mark your answer, and then your questions, and then we stop there. Okay. So pause the video and have a go at those questions, and have a go at marking them. Okay, well done. Right, so I now hope that you've understood what functions are. You can sub in to find the value of what f of x is, or what f of t is. And I hope that you now understand what the word input is, and the word output is, and the notations that are involved in this. Now, in our next video, we're just going to move on to more harder things that they can ask you in your exam. Thank you very much, and we're done for listening.